Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. My name's Seth Cressman, and I'm here with Dan Mickelin today. It's just the two of us, and you know what? We're going to have fun. This is a good show to be a part of. If you're new to Money on Tap, welcome aboard. If you've been here with us several times before, welcome back. We're glad you're here. One of the first things I want to just say is this. If you are listening to us on radio, guess what? We're a podcast as well. And if you don't know how to get to a podcast, grab your grandchild and let them show you how to get to a podcast, because they know. It's actually pretty easy. It's real simple. It's usually on your smartphone. Just look up pod and there it is. A couple of different ways to do that. Anyways, what we wanted to say is that one of the ways that you can help us out here at Money on Tap is subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating. Even if you think the show's horrible, that's fine. Let us know. I'm happy to hear from you guys, no matter what it is. We're looking to improve what we do here. And from time to time, you know what? That's what the feedback's for. And it helps us out. We love it that you're willing to just participate at any level here with us in Money on Tap and help us grow. We are growing today. That's one of the reasons that we're here with you, is to, grow in this personal journey of your finances, exploring what's important for you in retirement. And we do a lot of shows that aren't retirement based today. We are going to be really focusing on what it is in 24, or what's in store for 24, and the facts that you need to know to keep the money on tap. It was fun to be able to drop the money on tap in a title there.
Well done. Well done there, Seth.
Thanks, Dan. So how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. This is one of those shows that's kind of easy content for us to work with, but considering the time of year, I think it's really relevant and important to get this information out to people, because as usual, year over year, things change when it comes from IRS and regulatory perspective about, how much you can put away, how much you need to take out, what to expect from Social Security. And these are just critical elements of any kind of a well-done retirement plan. And whether you're working with a professional or you're more of the do-it-yourself type, these are numbers you need to know. Right? If you're going to do it right, you need to know these things. So we're going to be happy to share that today, and doing so now here in November gives everybody time to get ready for year end and what 2024 looks like for their own personal planning adventure.
Geez, I can't believe we're there. It's that time of year. We're doing the final adjustments and the tweaks to the tax landscape for what you've been doing in planning. We've got some of those shows. We've got, you guys did a great job on your giving show, which is so critical for, year end. And it's also really important to take a look at that stuff at the beginning of the year and what your plan is for the year and how you're going to choose to give. And there's just a ton of great content that we get to be a part of here at Money on Tap and get out the door to you, however you're finding us. And with that, it is time for us to jump into Money in the News.
Today, first from CNBC, from Cheryl Winokur-Monk, How to Delete Yourself from the Internet is the title of the article. And this is something I found to be really relevant, really important. And I think Seth and I are both going to share a couple stories of near misses lately personally. But, this whole idea, or really industry around identity theft and exchange of data, what's your data worth and who's buying it and who's collecting it. These things are ever increasingly important for everybody to be aware of, mindful of, and to put yourself in the best position to kind of defend yourself against it if that's what your prerogative is. Because the amount of information out there on each and every one of us just grows and grows and grows. Some of it's, harmless and just kind of out there, matter of public record, things that you can't really avoid. But there's really intimate detail out there as well that, can end up in the wrong hands if you're not mindful of that. And Google, to that point, and this is coming from the article, has rolled out a new tool called Results About You that allows a customer or any of us to request the removal of personal data from search results. And I think this was a good first step in one of the kind of major data aggregators historically that's ever existed, and found themselves in some hot water from time to time because of that, and the requirements to secure it safely and prevent breaches on their end of things. But Google is, obviously it's a tool that everybody uses on the internet. And unrelated to the article, I just Googled myself the other day and found, surprisingly, another Dan Michelon who's in the Chicago area. And the funny part was he's a high school basketball player, but his dad's name was Rick, which is my father's name. So there is not a lot of Michelons out there. There's only 3 Dan Michelons I've ever found. One of them, the other one's a photographer in France. But one of them has a father named Rick, as I did. So it's just kind of eerie thing, such a unique name, and here we go. But yeah, identity theft and how to cover your trail online is absolutely important. And there's a couple steps you can take to do it on your own. There's the unsubscribe option that you always get on these kind of junk emails. But what you got to understand about that is although you're opting out from receiving information further from these people, what you got to appreciate is, number one, they have your information. That's how they found you, and that's how they're emailing you. And you don't know who they sold it to in the meantime, right? So they've collected it at one point, either by finding some information on you or purchasing it from someone else. When you unsubscribe, you're kind of taking yourself off of their list, but you don't know what they've done with your data in the meantime. And it's important to consider that as well.
Yeah, there's this data brokerage out there is it's big business, and I'm not all that familiar with who's doing what out there, but it was interesting this morning just getting into the studio to do the show today. I got a call from a national bank letting me know that I don't have the notes right here, but there was they were from the fraud detection department, and who they were. Sounded like it was domiciled in the U.S. That was one of the first things I'm listening for, is like, how much of an accent can I pick up on? Didn't hear any of that. And one of the first questions they asked me was for my date of birth. And I was like, hey, let me just get your phone number and I'll give you a call back. And they gave me a reference number, and it all showed up as this bank on my phone as well. So that's a heads up out there, because Dan, I know you said you got one just this last weekend as well, but there's a lot of fraud out there, and it's getting really hard to detect it. And it's scary if you've got parents like mine that are in their 80s. They're susceptible. We've had to do a lot of different precautions and set a lot of things in place to just protect them. Protecting yourself. One of the cautions I have with this is with these, DIY, get out there and scrub your identity kind of a situation, is know who it is that you're working with. Because coming from a background in mortgage, we used to have a lot of different companies come in that would say, hey, we're going to help you and your clients get a better credit score, because it's all about that credit score and getting that mortgage, right? And there's a lot of people out there still doing this, and they are scams. They look so legit and sound so legit, and it's sad. It's sad to see what people are doing out there, and it's under this, trusted advisor guise as well. And I'm also one of those guys that was, when I got started in the industry, was benefiting from the list before what's going on right now. There was this thing that we had called the list out there. And if you were a stockbroker like me, busting your chops trying to sell Bristol Myers Squibb to anybody who would buy it on the telephone, then it was, that's what we had. And I remember feeling so bad for people that had, submitted their information to a credit card company at a baseball game or whatever they had done. They had given their information over, and they were on the list, and but there was the people out there too that were glad you called. Anyways, I won't get too much into the personal details of that. Glad it was just a momentary blip on the radar of me and my history, and part of the path for me becoming an advisor and recognizing that there's a lot more to just the stock market when it comes to helping somebody with their retirement. With that, you know what? Walgreens is next up on our docket here today. We've got Walgreens is canceling corporate bonuses as big pharmacies face increasing difficulties, by Nicole Goodkind. And that's a CNN article. Thank you very much for this one. The financial pressures mount on Walgreens, the nation's largest drugstore chain. The company said it will cancel bonuses for this year. Its corporate staff and slash bonuses sharply for its store and pharmacy managers. The cutback comes as the company contends with both disappointing quarterly earnings and labor issues. Now, it looks like they are on strike, if I'm not mistaken there.
Well, they've experienced a couple of walkouts, so they're on the verge of a strike potentially. There's a lot of unease in their labor force, so that the threats are out there. It's interesting in the article they point out the fact that Walgreens stock is at a 25-year low and it's down 40% this year. So realizing those realities, they've curtailed bonus structure for all the kind of senior management there, all the way down to the branch managers or the individual managers at their various stores, who those folks are still eligible for up to 25% of their bonus, so a steep cut if their individual performance metrics dictate. So they could be getting nothing at all, depending upon how their store did, or up to 25% of what they'd previously expected. And so some of the labor reaction that you can expect. And one guy was quoted on Reddit as saying, "Dear Walgreens board, as you see it fit not to give me my 100% bonus there this year, please look forward to 25% effort," which is kind of standard labor management language, right? I just kind of got amused in reading that. But the fact of the matter is that these major retail pharmacies have been really struggling this year, and there's a couple of things that are contributing to it. One of them is the kind of lack of the government-funded COVID shot business, which was extremely lucrative for them. But this transition to online subscription or prescriptions as well, which I've done personally. So, and I think it's a great convenience, and everyone in my family is doing that as well. But I can obviously realize the impact at the local store because they're just getting less business. And as a matter of fact, the CVS around the corner, that we would typically use, they've actually started knocking out like 2 hours in the middle of the day where they're not open to fill subscriptions. It's really strange. You drive up to the window and it's closed midday, and it's right around lunchtime too, which is ultra inconvenient for me because that's when I want to go grab it, right? And they're closed. So, that hasn't been great. But Rite Aid's filed for bankruptcy. CVS is hurting. It's not just Walgreens. It's this entire industry.
It's an odd thing, too, because the healthcare industry has such a huge push. There's so many more people that need medications right now. And with those cutouts that they were putting in there to do kind of the consulting with the pharmacist on all sorts of different scenarios that they might need some care around, it was, really kind of converting the healthcare over towards the pharmacy. I don't know what to say. It's really bizarre. I was about 3 weeks ago now. My son had a knee surgery, and it was early in the morning. Everything was going along fine, and we went over to the Walgreens pharmacy to pick up his pain medication, and it was sad. It was really hard to watch what was going on there because clearly they were understaffed and had so much happening and getting thrown at them. They were told us for the pain medication that they might have it in 2 or 3 days. I was like, no, he's coming off of his anesthesia now. We need something now. Went down to the next one, and I had to go to another pharmacy that's, night and day experience. They were fine. They were doing quite well, and it was calm and had enough people in there, and they got us taken care of. It actually wound up cutting into being able to do the radio show with you guys that day. So I was taking care of my son instead of being here with you guys for a change, but it was rough. I'm sad to see what's going on there, and I wish I knew more to be able to help.
Yeah, the whole pharmacy environment, I mean, part of it's this general lawlessness in the country, right? They've some of them, here in Bedford, New Hampshire, where I live and generally shop, the only changes I've personally experienced is the change in hours, right? So it clearly points to a staffing shortage of some kind. But when you go into Manchester, kind of into the more of an inner city type environment, I mean, the pharmacies there look like military bases. I mean, they are like geared up and locked down, and that they're doing this for some
it's not
cause.
Just Portland. It's not just Portland where that's going on?
I think Portland's special. I think it's a little different, but
Portland and Minneapolis.
Yeah. Chicago, New York. I mean, it's clearly Manchester's not one of those places, but they have the bulletproof glass for a reason, right? I mean, there's definitely cause to be concerned when you're around, when you're warehouse for these drugs that people are after. So, I can see that being a really poor working environment when you need to, you're under pressure to do the job right, knowing if you mess it up, you're going to get somebody sick or potentially killed, or, so all kinds of horrible consequence from not doing that part of the job right. But to have to do that, looking over your shoulder, concerned about your own personal safety and the environment you're in, I mean, not ideal. That's not an ideal scenario there for sure.
Next up, cost to retire continues to skyrocket as Biden targets retirement advice by Kristen Altus. Fox Business. Thank you so much for this. This is a little bit to do about this and that. There's the inflation is eating away at American savings, right? That's the part of this, in that, the cost to retire continues to increase. The Biden administration, however, is cracking down on junk fees in retirement investment advice. There's so 3 years ago, for the retirement savings, let's say you had $500,000 in today's climate, you need more like 600. That's the inflation factor. The other side of that is that there's these new rules that they're enforcing from the DOL, right, that are requiring more from advisors, right, in what the recommendations are. And also this is okay. But you know what, Dan, you're going to do a far better job of explaining this, because you are more on the compliance side than I do. and I'm like, oh man, this is going to get heavy fast for me. So go for it, please.
Yeah, I'll take that. So the what the article is pointing to, and this change for the cost of retirement advice or access to it in general, has to do with the Department of Labor ruling that's been out there for a number of years. And it's been resisted by the industry, on a couple of significant levels. But it's essentially called the best interest rule, and requires, financial advisors who are securities licensed, with Ben, Seth, and I all are, right, to act in a fiduciary capacity. And you've heard us using that word here on the show. We've been asked this word by a number of our clients. Are we fiduciaries? And the answer is yes. And what fiduciary means is that we need to put the interest of our clients ahead of ourselves. We can't be conflicted in the advice we offer. So essentially, boiling it down to its simplest terms, we're not allowed to offer you advice or recommend a product because it pays us the highest amount of money for us offering that advice. So our advice needs to be based upon the interest of the client and what's going to best fit their retirement or financial planning goals, and we need to set aside our own aspirations in that, which we've always done. We behave in a fiduciary way, at all times, and I've always thought that the industry kind of weeds out the bad actors in its own right, but the consumer does need protection, deserve protection. So I'm not against rules like this. I just think that there's always unintended consequences when these things get rolled out, like any federal regulation. There's good bullet points, there's good sound bites as to why it was enacted, but there's often other things that come about because of that. And one of them is potentially the cost of accessing this advice, because of the, additional documentation that becomes required, and the general fear of liability, the people who are offering advice in the retirement space. So these rules apply specifically to 401ks, IRAs, other specially treated investment accounts from the government, from the IRS perspective. People are beginning to back away from offering advice in that arena. And that's where the vast majority of people's retirement assets in this country are held. So, does it really make sense to limit the amount of people who are willing to offer advice in this space when that's where a large piece of most people's well-being is stored? And obviously I think that that's not really the case. But the changes that have been made here apply specifically to the independent insurance advisor, who doesn't have specifically a company that they work for and represent. So the oversight isn't necessarily there. So they're being pulled into the same set of regulations and standards that, securities licensed advisors such as ourselves have already been living in. So this isn't really new news for us.
And I appreciate that a lot. I do, because how many times have we there's been, like you said, bad actors out there, and the insurance company has, a different standard. They're coming from a different place when doing retirement planning or trying to help and position products and services. It's really a lot of the time, it's, their life is, or their lifeline is kind of dependent on the sale of those products and services. And it doesn't necessarily encompass the full breadth of who these people are and what they really need.
Yeah, there's a line of product out there that could be sold as if it's a market-based account, and it's not, right? It's an insurance product. It's got nothing to do with direct investment in stocks and bonds and the full environment of investable assets out there. But they can be marketed in that way. There's some catchphrases involved that would lead people to believe that. So is there oversight required there? Absolutely. And one of the challenges is that in the insurance space, the industry as a whole is governed by the 50 individual states. So you theoretically have 50 different opinions on any given product or marketing piece or sales tactic, all those things. So this guideline is trying to bring it all in and give it kind of a federal, nationwide baseline of how to regulate these things. So, I agree that that's required, and that's a good thing to have, and it will ultimately protect the consumer. But it's also going to scare some people out of the business, and have them step aside and not offer advice on those accounts. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Generally speaking, I'm all for more is better, right? Let competition exist. Let's have a lot of people working in the space. There's a lot of people that need that advice. But should it be uniform across the 50 states to some degree? That's probably true as well. But another thing that was interesting about this article, and one of the things I do want to get to, is we've long talked about that. I think it was ING commercial, right? What's your number? Where the guy's walking down the sidewalk chasing a moving arrow with a number that's just growing above his head, saying, okay, this is what you need for retirement, and it's measured in the amount of dollars, right? But this article is very interesting. Points out that it's not a dollar amount that you need, because that doesn't take into effect your personal cost of living, the lifestyle you're accustomed to, and where you live in the country, which quite frankly can change your expenses in a significant way, but more so measured by a multiple of your income. So while you were working, whatever you make, based upon how old you are, set aside that amount as a multiple of income. So the article suggests, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the right math, but it's an interesting way to look at it. When you're in your 30s, you want to have 1 times your annual salary saved, 3 times by the time you're 40, 6 times by the time you're age 50, 8 times by 60, and 10 times by 67 when you're technically at FRA, full retirement age. So I haven't really dove deep personally into analyzing, what that would mean for me, what that means for anybody that we work with, but just as a perspective of how to look at that, rather than chasing a dollar, just chasing a number on a page. Understanding what you're accustomed to, what you've usually made, what you've typically spent, and using those factors to determine your number or your retirement savings goal is, I think, a much better perspective.
Gosh, there's a lot to unpack in that, and the more that I look at it, the more that I really wish that the administration would take a look at themselves before they start pointing the finger at other people, and how they could actually, instead of pointing rules and regulations and other things at an industry that's really here to help.
How about you fix Social Security first? How about you do that? Let's worry about that first, and then we'll back into some of the other stuff, right?
Stop sending the $1 billion plus whatever overseas, that kind of a thing. I don't know. Maybe that's a more simple solve for this to help our economy and the people that need to help out. Because we love you people, and we're here to help at Money on Tap. And speaking of which, we are going to take, maybe not be help. Yeah, I know it's going to help for us, help for you. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about what's in store for 24, the facts you need to know to keep the money on tap. And with that, I want to thank the people out there that are subscribing in the podcast world. Just appreciate you so much for helping us out there and keeping those numbers going up and getting the word out of Money on Tap. While you're at it, if it's good for you too, if you have a minute, just give us a couple stars, whatever you think's appropriate. Drop us a line at info@yourmoneyontap. We got some Money on Tap gear that we cannot wait to send you out. It's a lot of fun for us to just to see those things going out in the mail and people getting their Money on Tap gear. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Dan Mickelon here with Brayshaw Financial. Looking for a hassle-free way to invest? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. With Brayshaw Financial Group, you can start investing with as little as $100, enjoy a user-friendly platform with a diverse range of investment options. Visit Brayshaw Financial Group and start your investment journey today. Brayshaw Financial Group, investing made easy.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we were talking about what's in store for 24, the facts you need to know to keep the money on tap. And we, gosh, it's been just a series of wonderful shows here that we've been, gosh, I don't know. It's been a while since I've had one of those shows where I've been like, it just seems like they just keep getting better. And even stuff like this that we're going to talk about with you today, which is, it's some numbers, it's some facts about what's coming up for you, and it's important to understand that. And and I get it. It's funny to have this kind of the conversation inside of our conversation where we know that when we start talking about like the facts and the figures and all this kind of stuff inside of the financial planning world, some people just want to run for the hills. It just causes fear to think about like what's even going on in this world. And our goal here is not to create or cause any panic or hysteria. There's no need for that, really. We're going to talk about some stuff that, believe it or not, is just creating opportunities. That's underlying all of the changes, the shifts, and all of the stuff that we see. We have one of the things I love about just working with Dan and Ben is that we just have a growth mindset around all of it. It's like, we have a very human reaction when we see stuff coming down from the DOL that we're like, oh my gosh, more paperwork for us to do and more. And Ben and Dan supervise a bunch of advisors out there. So they're just like, oh, great. It's more stuff on their desk to try to, figure out and coach through and work through. Yeah, we're not going to do that today. But on the other side of that, we love to work through the scenarios and find the opportunities inside of these changes that are happening. And for the most part, what we're talking about on the what's in store for 24 is we're talking about like RMDs, the required minimum distributions. We're going to talk about IRAs and 401ks, and those are the retirement vehicles. And there's adjustments or tweaks that are happening almost on an annual basis. And some of these we're going to talk about are slated for 10 years down the road. So don't even apply now. So don't nothing to worry about. But with that, we do have some fun in store for you inside of these, and can't wait to get into the numbers with you.
Yeah, one of the ones that comes up first, and this is a question about this time of year that we deal with on a very regular basis, and it is something that's been changing on the fly over the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to do so, is the whole topic of RMDs, required minimum distributions. So what this is that if you have a retirement account, either an IRA or 401k, anything along those lines, the whole family of IRAs, is that when you reach a certain age, the IRS requires you to begin taking distributions from those accounts. So if you recall, as you were setting that money aside while you were working and saving and growing, you were getting the benefit of taking that whatever amount that you contributed that year off of your income for tax purposes. So essentially you're putting in pre-tax or untaxed dollars into this retirement vehicle for yourself. And then it just grows and accumulates, and hopefully it's well invested. And at a certain point in time in retirement, you begin to access those funds. And if you're of the lucky few that didn't need to necessarily get in there early or begin to do that before the required age, which the government hands us every year or on an ongoing basis, it can kind of change a little bit. You've been able to defer until this point. But now, once you've achieved the right age, you need to start withdrawing. And if you were born between anytime before 1950, then your RMD age was 72 and a half. And as Seth and I and Ben were growing up in the business, that was just always the age, right? 72 and a half, that was it, RMD That's time, it. Right? But now, because of the Secure Act 1.0 and in the years following now 2.0, if you were born between 1951 and 1959, your RMD age is actually now 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, you're going to have an RMD age of 75. Okay? So again, think about when you were born and apply that kind of math to your RMD calculation. But what's also very, very important to know, so whatever you've got your money invested in, if you're working with a financial institution or a financial advisor, they're going to be on top of this for you and help you calculate what is your actual RMD. So what's the amount of dollars you need to withdraw from your account so that they can be taxed once you've achieved age. But if you're working with multiple financial advisors or you have your dollars invested in multiple different accounts, keep this in mind. This can also often be forgotten. Each one of those accounts is going to have a certain dollar amount that needs to be distributed rather. Now, that total dollar amount of all those distributions doesn't need to come from a single, all of the accounts separately. It can come from a single account, but you do need to meet that aggregate total number to be in line with what the IRS suggests is your required minimum distribution amount.
Yeah, part of the fun is figuring out what's where and how does it apply. I can't tell you how many times we've sat in the office and a new client is sitting with us because of this RMD, and it's worked itself out in their taxes, where previously it was like a 50% tax hit on those distributions that they were supposed to take. And if you didn't take the distribution, you had a 50% tax hit on that. Now it's like 25, but still, oh my gosh. And the confusion that's there for people that have like accumulated and don't need this money right now. They've, took an opportunity to reduce the taxes and accumulated the money. And now they're being forced to take this distribution. And, the irony of it, it's like, wait a second, I have to take this money now. Well, yeah, it is. And if RMD is kind of a dirty word in your house, I get it. Here's one of the things like we were talking about before. I was talking about there's opportunities inside of this, right? For one of the things we love to do is if you're motivated to be a giver, right, and you want to help a charity, any nonprofit out there, it just nonprofit status, you want to support it. You can actually use up to $100,000 if you have an RMD like that. That's amazing. But up to $100,000 of that RMD to send directly from your IRA over to the institution. You can break it up. You can send part here, part there. There's no limit to how many places you can send it. There's just a cap on how much you can send. But what it does is it doesn't get taxed. It doesn't get taxed as the ordinary income that typically an IRA distribution or your RMD gets taxed as. What a beautiful little, delicious little morsel there for you to be able to go ahead and do the good, do 100% of the good you want to do and not get taxed. And so there's also these options inside of this as well.
Yeah, these are called QCDs. It's a qualified charitable distribution. And we did a bit of this conversation on our charitable giving show or our giving show a couple of weeks back. But a super important caveat to this is don't take the RMD into your own hands and then cut a check to charity, okay? Because that will raise your taxable income for the year. Then you get a deduction on the back end. But it will affect things like taxability on your Social Security or what you're paying for Medicaid premiums. So don't do it that way. Make sure that the money gets sent direct, right from your IRA holder directly to the charity of your choice, because then it never shows on your income. So you're going to miss those potential negative outcomes there.
Here's one other thing I just want to clarify with this as well is please don't think that you're not able to take money from your IRA or 401k until you're age 73 now. Okay. That's not what we're saying. The access where you have that initial access into your IRA or your 401k is 59.5. So there's nothing that's changed with that. I just realized that that's probably a little bit of a point of confusion for some people. There are ways, if you're an early retiree, to access these funds previous to that 59.5 age as well.
The one thing to note, that QCD option, I think, Seth, you made mention of $100,000 being the limit. It's actually $200,000 for a couple married filing jointly. So you can amplify that option for you. If you fall into that category and are super charitably minded, keep that in mind. And if you do run afoul of the RMD rule, Seth, you made mention of this before. There used to be a 50% penalty on the qualified distribution, or the required distribution rather, that you did not make. They reduced that down to 25%, which is good, right? That's a step in the right direction. But even better than that is if you rectify it quickly, the penalty gets reduced all the way down to 10%. Now, the definition of, rectified quickly in the view of the IRS, I'm not 100% sure on, but, essentially, if you notice you didn't get this done and you have that opportunity, the quicker you act, the better to reduce that negative consequence and the penalty the IRS is going to be looking for you there.
You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about what's in store for 24, the future or the facts you need to know to keep the money on tap. We're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Are you looking for personalized guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about what's in store for 24 and the facts you need to know to keep your money on tap. And it's kind of a facts and figures show for us, but there's plenty of stories wrapped in here and just, it's fun information for people that are, like to kind of go through the plan and see what the opportunities are. There's just cool stuff. When we're talking about retirement and limitations and the options that kind of pop up on the other side of those as well. We just got done wrapping up a little bit there on the RMDs, and we're going to be talking about the retirement plans like your 401k or your IRAs and simple IRAs and what there's going to be opening up for you here in 2024. So first off, IRS is going to lift the contribution limits for the 401k, IRA, retirement plans. Now, that's not unlimited. Gosh, I'm trying to remember where we were at when I got started. It was like 17,000, I think, was 16.5 or 17,000.
16.5 is what I remember my first year.
Right, for the 401ks.
Yeah.
And since then, it's not an every year event, but here we are in 2024, coming up into 2024, and it's going to be 23,000 for a 401k. And that's up from 22,500 this year. That's a contribution limit. Now, there's always room for confusion, isn't there?
That's only if you're under 50, right? So if you're over 50, there's additional room to contribute, and then we'll get into that as well. But the amount you can set aside before you run afoul of the guidelines is changing, not quite every year, but it's been steadily increasing by, I think it's about a $500 interval kind of year over year. That's gone on here. Obviously, the limits raised from $22,500 last year to $23,000 for 2024 and up to $7,000 in 2024 for IRAs, as opposed to $6,500 last year. But I don't know, probably 8 or 10 years ago, the IRS introduced this catch-up provision when I think everyone began to realize that Social Security was faltering, and that if you're over 50, you can contribute to a 401k an additional $7,500, which is a very healthy amount. And then on the IRA side, it's an additional $1,000. So bringing your totals to $30,500 for a 401k maximum, and $7,500 or $8,000 rather for an IRA. Again, the top end of your eligible contributions there to take the tax deduction. So if you're in a position to be able to do that, I think that's really a significant amount of money to be set aside, and we certainly encourage everyone to do that. And what was interesting to note is that during 2022, the last time that these statistics have become available to us, 15% of retirement plan participants contributed the maximum amount, and that was coming from Vanguard. Although 58% of those people were in the high income earning position, so obviously that makes sense. The more you make, theoretically, the more you can set aside. But I found that number to be high, though, Seth. I don't know what you think, but 15% of people are maxing out. I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to hear that as well. one of the things that we have some confusion around sometimes is the pre-tax and the post-tax in a 401k. So when we talk about the IRS limits on this, that $23,000, right? That's what you as a contributor can put into the plan. And that's where you get that discount on your taxes, right? It's just removed from the income. It's not there in your income anymore. Okay. It goes into the plan. And so that's your maximum to receive that tax benefit. However, you can contribute and your employer can contribute into your plan up to $69,000, $70,000. I have to double check that number with you. Not a lot of people are doing that, but that's an after tax. So you're going to get taxed on that contribution. So it's still on your income. But here's usually where people are going with that is they're either looking for, I want to have tax-free growth. And if that's the case, there's other options, right? You can achieve tax-free growth inside of different vehicles. But most of the time where people are at with that is they're going to convert those into Roth IRAs. Since you are paying tax on it, inside of that Roth, there's that little piece there that allows people to go ahead and super fund a Roth IRA, which is so cool.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And for people who are in a position to do that, that's a very healthy, financial planning opportunity for you. That also puts you in a position of avoiding some of the Roth IRA income limitations, right? So if you were to just naturally open up a Roth, directly, not through a 401k, not by nature doing a conversion, just open a Roth account, there are income limits for individuals and for couples as to when you are or are not eligible. And that's another number, that's another fact and figure for this year in 2024 coming up that's increased and changed. So for individuals next year, 2024, the Roth phase-out limit begins at $161,000, and for a couple, it's going to phase out, or the phase-out begins at $230,000. So new limits to keep in mind if your income, either as an individual or as a couple filing jointly, are under those upper limits, you are eligible to make Roth contributions. And if you're over that, but not by a vast margin there, you are likely eligible to make some Roth contributions. It just begins to phase out and get limited at that point. So if you find yourself in that kind of in-between category, give us a call. We can reference the IRS tables, share that information with you, and see how much you may be eligible for. But Roth in general, I know as an advisor, as a retirement planner, that all the work that we do here, I know Seth and Ben feel the same. We highly encourage people to explore Roth options, either inside of their 401k or, if necessary, the conversion opportunity, because just given our fiscal situation as a country and the expenditures we've gone through, the exploding national debt, the chances of income taxes being lower in the future seem pretty slim. So to have access at some point down the road in your retirement picture to a bucket of tax-free, accessible retirement income just makes a whole lot of sense. Huge advocates for that.
Yeah, and if that's you, if you're in that threshold of getting beyond some of these limitations in the your income, some of the places that we want to try to take a look for you is, do you have the ability to do a solo 401k, right? That's an option out there for independent or independent contractors, or there's different ways to set these up. And if you qualify or don't qualify is really what it comes down to, or how do you qualify? But those are some great plans for people that are getting outside of that income threshold to be able to start to use some different tools differently for their planning. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more What's in Store for 24. Hey, Seth Crossman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you looking for professional guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Advisors, we're here to help you. Our team of experts will provide professional, personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today and schedule your free consultation. Looking forward to seeing you there.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we're talking about what's in store for 24, the facts you need to know to keep your money on tap. And we have talked about adjustments in the numbers around 401ks and retirement plans and required minimum distributions and QCDs, which you got to love our industry, Dan. We just, I mean,
so much code, right?
Wading through it. I apologize. I mean, I feel sorry for you guys just being on here with us today, just listening to us talk about all the acronyms and stuff that we're talking about this stuff all the time and realize, painting the picture in a different way is one of the goals we have here for you at Money on Tap. We really want to just give you what's important, information that you can go ahead and digest and not feel like you're sitting down drinking from a fire hose or have no clue what in the world we're talking about here. This is all stuff it relates to you. It's a part of your world, and how can we help you grab a hold of it and be successful in your investing? That's our goal, right? Whether you're with us at Brayshaw Financial as clients and we're doing the planning work for us, or whether you've heard us before and you heard Ben, Dan, or myself say, give us a call, because you know what? We're probably going to be able to help you get through whatever your question is in a matter of minutes versus however long, you've been sitting there stewing on it. Most of the time, people, before they call us, have been, thinking about stuff for years, just wishing they had somebody to call. And nailing it down in a half an hour call with us is like, wow, what a gift. I mean, that's a gift for us, because that's what we love. We love to help. We love to help people be successful and have confidence moving through a decision for their finances in their world. Now, all that to say, right? If you're one of those lottery winners out there, right? We love those calls too. That's fun. Those are fun calls. We get those, a couple times a year, right? But most of the time we're just making the daily decisions on what are the numbers, like what are your opportunities this year with, your new retirement plan, because the where you've been at for the last 20 years just said, hey, we thank you for your service, but go find a new location. And we have a lot of people with Intel and Nike and those people that are, kind of moving from one place to another, but really didn't really understand what they were doing with their previous plan and how to maximize that opportunity, or what's in store for them as the new job that they're walking through. How do they set that up? Gosh, it's a call. It's easy. It's really that easy. And it doesn't charge. We don't charge you for that. So it's a no-brainer as far as we're concerned. Unless of course you're just like sick of Dan and you just are like, man, that guy just rubs me the wrong, which is impossible. So if you're less than 0.1% of the population, that's you, that's okay. Call Ben and I. We love to help you too.
Well, it's not that small a sliver. I could definitely point you out a few references for that, but probably not a show topic.
So what are we going to be talking about wrapping up this show, Dan? We've got some more stuff for our retirees, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest piece is, and we talk about inflation all the time, right, on this show. It's just been, I mean, I can't imagine. It's probably the first show that we got to not mention inflation until the 50th minute yet for the first show in I don't know how many years, but there will be a COLA increase to Social Security coming up in 2024. And that's a cost of living adjustment for all recipients. You'd be aware of that. For people who are not yet there or planning on it, that's another acronym you need to know. Put that one in the back pocket. But there'll be a cost of living adjustment in 2024 of 3.2%, which is going to result in an average recipient getting $59 more per month. Which 3.2%, you might be sitting there thinking, well, geez, that doesn't really line up with the inflation rate that is published all the time and the Fed's speaking to. And
you read my mind.
Yeah, and you're right. It's true. It looks a little short, doesn't it?
Boo.
Yes. So, it's not going to quite likely keep pace with the increase in your expenses, but it is something, right? There is an increase there. So we'll take that as relative good news. And the other benefit of that increase being potentially modest, depending upon how you view it, is that it's depleting the overall Social Security pool by less, which is good for the likelihood of your future payments, and for, folks like us who are not there yet, having any kind of expectation of a payment down the road is all that is good news for us. But if you're trying to make ends meet as a retiree, and Social Security is a major piece of your retirement picture, which for many, many people it is, that increase is probably coming up a little short.
Yeah. I've always struggled with these cost of living adjustments when we're taking a look at what are they using, what's the data that they're using, and it seems so manipulated that, inflation has not really truly been articulated the way that it's been working out through our economy. I mean, we've done the inflation shows, like you said, so many times where it's like, okay, so cost of milk was this, now it's this, and this is the stuff that we're just eggs, gas, you name it. Oh, well, gas doesn't count anymore, right? Because that's its own thing. The bills that, we've got PG&E over here, but the gas and electric and all those things, they're not going up at the same rate that they're telling you on the TV. We know it. And so, limiting our retirees that, it's a huge part of the retirement landscape is this Social Security.
I mean, it's the lowest increase in the last 3 years, which I don't think conditions have changed that much in the last 3 years. I mean, it went from 5.9 to 8.7 down to 3.2. But I don't feel as though the situation has improved in any kind of material way. But anyway, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and also, like you said, like the benefit of not reducing the retirement or the Social Security benefits pool that they're drawing from, supposedly, that's a factor out there to consider. And I just I'm like, well, that's not the solve. I just don't ever see that, limiting the amount of money that are retirees that are in retirement, right? This is my mom and dad in their 80s. What are they going to, how is the burden on them? Okay. So anyways, I'm getting off topic there. I'm going down to rabbit trail that we don't have enough showtime for, or probably in a matter of a couple of shows to be able to produce that. But anyways, this is one of the ways that this is working out. And the other one here is a maximum retired worker benefit for new beneficiaries will increase. Okay. Is that good or bad? Well, we'll see. Social Security Administration indexes the benefit payments to the National Average Wage Index, the account for living standard increases that occurred over the time. That means maximum Social Security payout for newly awarded beneficiaries tends to rise each year. So this is that calculator that you're looking at. Like, how much can I expect if I, take it at 62 versus, 67 or whatever your full retirement age is. So there's increases in that as well.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because we've talked often as well about, so when do you take Social Security? What's the optimum time for any given scenario? And that's always an individual calculation and choice there. But for people who have yet to file or yet to begin receiving benefits, I thought this was really important to put out there. The maximum allowable benefit for 2024, if you choose to claim early, so at age 62, the earliest possibility that you can claim at, it's $2,710 a month maximum. Okay, so if you have the best of the 30 years wage earning experience calculation working in your favor. Now, the payoff for delaying, however, though, so if you're new to claim at age 70 now, the maximum in your situation would be $4,873 a month. That's an 80% difference. That is really, I think, highlighting and demonstrating that benefit of potentially deferring and waiting to make your claim. And every year, every age in between, obviously they all slot in between those two numbers. So this is a good illustration for the notion of if you're in a position to wait, it may be in your interest to do so. Now, again, individual decision, individual calculation, something that we would sit down and be happy to discuss with you. But I thought that was a stark difference and really worthwhile to point out.
You have been listening to Money on Tap, and we've been talking about what's in store for 24. Gosh, a lot inside of those numbers, and to pick one or two of them out and say, hey, how's this work out in my scenario? There's a lot more to that, right? Some of this stuff for very simple plans might be very plug and play, but for a lifetime of benefits and planning, it might take a little bit more time. One of the shortcuts that we offer here at Money on Tap is a call. And it's an introduction with Dan, Ben, myself, to do a free planning session with you for an hour. And we love doing that with you. And we're grateful for you being here. And we look forward to you being successful in your investing. Can't wait to be here with you next week. Have a great one.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.